Can change be stopped? It's inevitable. Nobody can change it. Nobody can stop the change. But change in natural fashion is different from the change that has been caused due to the intervention of human mind, human intellect, human technology, human-based desire. In fact, long back it has been stated that nature has enough to meet the greed, meet the necessity of the mankind, but not the greed. So, in a sense, if the environment has to be seen, the relation between abiotic and biotic relationship of the environment, one has to see that what is that which has been claimed for the last 2 decades as a climate change, and many scientists are bothering. They are say warning that if the situation continues like this, if we do not care for the nature, nature will not care us, and a time will come we all will be extincted. Now, this is also a fact. In Indian say text, it is stated, "Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu nirama." This let all remain happily and all live together. And this implies that we must understand the event holistically. We must understand the things as a part of the totality. Not that we must understand things as a part of sectoral approach. As an identity of anything has to be seen in relation to other identities. For example, when you say that there's continuous change for a long period of time, if there is a continuous change of the weather for a long period of time, we say it is leading towards a climate change. And this climate change is identified only when we realize, we observe, we say, see that something is missing and some new things have entered into our life. Say, when you say youth, who are the youth? How they perceive this? Now, rural youth and urban youth are different in their perception. Rural youth are still having their association with the tradition of their own. The village-based tradition is still there. Urban youth is uprooted from the rural network of relations and are now under the domain of, under the dominance of the technology. This implies that large number of people, whether it is a rural or urban, nowadays we have seen that the larger mass of people are becoming techno-dependent. They do not know what is science behind, but they know how to handle technology as it has been instructed. So in a sense, without knowing the science behind, we use the technology, and through technology we are in a position to gather data that what has happened for the last many years. I shall go back to identify that how the change has occurred in the nature. I was working sometime on Mahanadi River Valley. It's a river that snakes down the hill of Chhattisgarh and gets into Bay of Bengal through Odisha. On the mid-river valley, I have worked on prehistoric archaeological works. Then we have seen that there are certain patinated stones, and it was the human craft that was used as a tool for making a life of prehistoric time. Around 1 million year back, say around 80,000 years, prior to 80,000 years, man survived, but then survived with the local technology that they invented. You talk of any microecological condition, the microecological condition has been understood by the people living that area, and the habitat of the people living that area has allowed them to interact with nature and develop tools and techniques. That's how they are bothering as how to sustain the available resources so that it must not reach the point of no return. It is also stated that what has happened in past need not be repeated now. Now we have seen throughout the history of humankind, never at a time has our planet Earth witnessed the magnitude of ecological crisis as we are experiencing now. This implies that the change is becoming almost an accelerating motion. The change is accelerating to a larger extent because of the human intervention. I shall give a small example. I was asking two tribal chaps few days back. One who has experienced the scarcity of food and was a migrant labor across two generations. Another chap who has not gone beyond 5 kilometers of radius in his lifetime. And when I asked what is the food crisis that he is facing, he's surprised. What is food crisis? He asked me. He said, Mother Earth has given me enough, and we need to develop tools and techniques to search the food for our own survival. This is how during summer we go with a ferule or a spade to the jungle, and we identify the area where the tubers, roots, and other things are available. That's how it is meeting our necessities. This implies that the man who has survived for a longer time in the same microbial condition has understood the biotic and abiotic relationship. Every living creature of that area is being understood by him. I shall give a small example again. So around 10 years, 12 years back, I gave a student a small work for his MPhil dissertation. I asked him, you go from, say, urban area. I made a small line on the map and asked him to climb to the mountain and take every 10 kilometers, you take a small segment, small, say, square area, 10 feet by 10 feet, and whoever passes through that way, you ask them whatever he knows about the soil, about the water, type of plants, type of animals, what is the use, how it is being used, when it is available, everything. And it was seen that the person who is nearer to the top of the mountain, he is more knowledgeable than the man who has almost nearer to the urban center. This means the urbanized people are keeping themselves away from nature. That's how they claim themselves that they have understood nature better than the man who is identified as an Adivasi or tribal, who has been staying in the microeconomic conditions for centuries. This implies that the man who has stayed there knows how to protect the environment of his own, and he has ritualized, he has got a lot of customs, cultural process, cultural patterns, where he knows what is that biotic area, how that has to be protected. For example, if you see, presently we have seen in India, Chhattisgarh and Odisha have got a struggle for Mahanadi water. Mahanadi, to understand the Mahanadi water, we need to understand Mahanadi as an integral part of the nature that flows from a distant mountainous area to merge with the Bay of Bengal. But then that is not enough. Just flowing of water that gives the life of a river is not enough. How and why and how long it has been giving the life, that has to be seen. And to see that, one has to see what is the mountain, how the mountains are packed with the trees, what is the sources of soil holding capacity of the trees, how since the trees have been chopped off, forest has been denuded, what happens to the soil that slides down with the rain, and siltation is being created. These rivers are becoming shallow. This implies that we need to understand the running of water, the life of the river, in relation to the entire environment. And then when we say we live in a particular atmosphere, and broadly we can say that the entire atmosphere has been divided into four spheres. One is a lithosphere that refers to soil or mountain or stones. One is a hydrosphere that refers to water. One refers to biosphere, and that is all about the living creatures. This implies that biosphere, to understand the biosphere, one has to understand hydrosphere, lithosphere, and atmosphere. The entire area has to be seen as an integral part. When we say that the atmosphere is having a layer of gases, and at times people are not in a position to breathe properly, who has created this? It is we who have created this. The higher is the urbanization, greater is the difficulty they are facing in getting fresh air. You just turn your mind to the writings of earlier say scholars who wrote clearly that during 18th and 19th century, because of industrial revolution, what has happened, how the European countries have grown, and how the colonized areas have been, say, looted, as it is being now done by the China. China is now making most of the African countries under debt trap, and now taking huge number of mines, the minerals. This implies that the nature has created something which is to be maintained. That is now not in a position to get maintained because of a human intervention. It is also scientists stated that 1 cm of upper soil formation takes around 500 years. And in Indian context, all mining operations surface mining. So thereby what happens? The entire soil is been taken out. It is also stated that 99% of living creatures are maintaining their life only on 6 inches of upper soil. If 6 inches of upper soil is taken out, obviously 99% of living creatures are dying. If you say that climate change has occurred, how do we understand what is the climate change? For normal Amjanta, normal villagers, if you ask what is that say climate change, how do you say that there is a change in the climate? They say we need to see what is happening around our village. Now, for example, there are people in Manipur, tribal people are there, who are in a position to predict what is the type of cloud that is coming up, how long it will rain, and what amount of rain will be there during that particular period. This prediction is no more working now. It is because that human intervention through the space has created devastation. Now we have seen Ukraine and the Russia war, and just to project them, each country to project their gravity, to project their defense purpose, they are trying to have experiment in ocean. They set missiles and that fall in ocean. We do not know how many, oceanic animals are dying. So that is a case for the urban people who are having access to the internet, who are in a position to understand, who are literate, they can understand what is happening to that. For a villager, for a rural and tribal village people, what is important? How do they say that there is a change in the climate? Only when they observe, they look at the symptoms. For example, some people say we don't get sparrow now. The sparrows are missing. And some people say during childhood, I have seen in the railway station huge number of sparrows flying, and the chirping sound of the sparrow is quite observable, quite listened to the human being during evening hours, and now that is no more existing. Similarly, crows are becoming almost less in number. Earlier it was used, now it is non-existent. Vultures are almost a dream. Now we don't see vultures. If the next generation is to be told that there was a particular type of bird known as vulture, which was feeding on dead and acting as a scavenger, that is one has to create the picture or photography if it is there, that has to be shown to the child. And the next generation, they may not be in a position to know that this case or somebody is saying it may may or may not be believed. Because for them, the bird is something which they are seeing. And they are seeing in the museum, they are seeing in a zoo, some birds, some animals, and some of the birds and animals are almost at the verge of extinction. Some have already been extincted. I think that elephants are dying the way the elephants are dying. And the way either the human intervention like electrification or the poison that is being given to them to escape from the harvest. Possibly, elephants will also be non-existent after 100 years or so. This implies that a rural village person, the climate change is only identified through the symptoms that the observation that they have made across years, across generations. Now, when you talk of youth, Role refers to the functions that a person contributes, the work that a person contributes towards making something. That is the role. Role is could be of two types. One is expected role and enacted role. Expected role is referring to the norms, what a person is expected to do. It is a normative behavior. And what people are usually practicing, that is the enactments. Now, we have seen people say, I mean, developing countries are now facing problem because there is a hue and cry at the global level that we must protect the globe. We must protect our own planet, and our own planet is say, at the risk. Now, high risk is coming. The higher is the say modernization, industrialization continuing. We have also seen 50% of, it has already reported, around 20% of biotech sector are completely vanished. 50% are getting a sense, and that's how they have already received the impact of change of climate. Now question comes, what is left for the youth who have to live for a longer time than the aged people like me? Now, youth is youth, as per our own perception, is young, biologically young, maybe 15 to 35 years of age. But then youth is the mindset that is more important. If young, maybe say carrying the idea of the senior people in the urban sector, but then if you talk of youth, youth are very sensitive, youth are evergreen, youth are promising, youth are courageous, and they accept challenges. They know that there is a possibility that if the young people would be aware of the situation that our earlier ancestors were using this, and this was happening, and now we are facing problem, and now that they will be starting, say, identifying the earlier generations as the guilt, but then they are also becoming optimistic that they say, if we need to protect the globe, we need to start our work now. Now, Greta has already stated that the girl has addressed the entire world. It was creating sense to everyone. All scientists were shocked listening to a young girl speaking that you are not expected to damage the entire planet. You are not leaving anything for us. This implies that why do you say that the sustainable development is necessary? When sustainable development is necessary, whatever the earlier generation were using, that at least that particular resources must be available to us. The forthcoming generation must have the ability and must have the scope to use the resources available. Now, if the resources are getting damaged day by day, what will happen? And a time will come that the resources are becoming abundant. Like in case of certain developing countries, we have seen that when they try to go for, say, increasing the technology and through scientific innovations, if they try to develop their own infrastructure and start developing to compete at the international level, the developed countries are opposing, saying that, see, if we do not bother now, we may not get time to bother in future to have our own safety life. Now, this safety guaranteed life is very much important for the youth because they are coming up. They need to face the problem. And we have already, senior people like me, have already reached a stage and we have lived our life almost. And then young people are to live for longer. So it is the challenge of the youth to look for what type of, say, strategies and what type of works, what type of educational inputs, or what type of motivation that has to be given to the people and whom to talk, whether the aged who are the inventory of knowledge, whether the children who are clean slates, what to do, when to start, where to start. And it is also stated that education is one of the biggest instruments that if the educational input is given from the childhood onwards to protect the environment, possibly a time will come that the child, when comes up age, can realize that these are the things are going on, these are the things that went off, and therefore we need to have our own strategies to see that the planet is still surviving and make us survive. Many scientists have already lamented that even after listening to the warnings of the scientific, say, deductions, scientific logic, scientific statements, with all proofs, people don't bother. It is also stated, say, for example, as we see now, every day, almost 14 months have passed. Every day we see huge number of, say, arms and ammunitions are being used by both the countries, the Russian and Ukraine, and both are supported by other countries. This implies that we have already started poisoning the atmosphere. When I take the breath, possibly my lungs is becoming black. How do I survive? And maybe that there is a story saying that a time will come, the people, because of their advancement, they need to go to, if they're staying at, say, 100th floor and go to college, which is at a distance of, say, 500 kilometers, by some helicopter, stay there and again come. They don't see the soil. The soil is becoming, so they need to see practically what soil is, how the plants grow. Because they do not understand. A child who has never gone outside from his own flat, staying at 100th, say, stair, possibly for the perception that the child will have is that a milk packet is being hanged at the door at the morning, and that if the child reads that the cow gives milk, possibly who is that cow? Cow is the maid servant or the person who is supplying the, say, milk packet is the cow. That perception will come to his mind. Or even if the flower bouquet is being fixed on the dining table or drawing room, possibly that is what the child will see, that this is the garden, because he has never seen, he never came down to the ground floor to see what is soil, because there is a sense of fear. If I go down, maybe that some of the arsenic gases will kill, and the child will be protected by the parents. That's how they are having mask. They are having, say, even an urban center, in Indian context, I say, it is being identified that Bangalore is one of the most polluted city in India, because it's very difficult to inhale during evening hours, and because of the vehicles, because of carbon monoxide that is coming up. And it's very, very difficult. We have already seen in Madhya Pradesh what is that gas that has leaked and many people died. We have seen in many countries, because of a leakage of the huge ship, the oil leakage that has created havoc in the ocean has killed huge fishes. And those fish have been thrown to the, say, beach. We have seen huge thousands and thousands, lakhs of fishes are dying. Who is the creator? Who is the abettor? Now the question comes, the young people will raise the question, who is the abettor? Whether the developed countries or developing countries. Whether the developing countries, the urban centers in the developing countries, or the rural people. In a sense, people say, normally when they try to see that the tribal people are going for Odu cultivation, and they are setting fire to the herbs and shrubs that has been cut and put in heaps. Because that was the period when the tribal people, even today in some tribal societies, it is being used. Voodoo cultivation, that slash and burn cultivation is being used. And the slash and burn cultivation was observed by some of the urbanites, and they say that it is the tribals who are spoiling the nature. They are cutting the trees. Now let us go to any tribal family. You see that there is any wood material lying in his residence, except possibly for a few firewood for cooking purpose. And you look at the urbanites, in any, say, bus stand or railway station, you can see that there is huge furniture made up of wood coming and being uploaded, say, loaded in some truck. This implies that to meet the urban requirements, the tribal jungles are being chopped off. And that's how even earlier there was a situation where for a sense of pride to express a dominance, during feudal period, the people had the palace, and the palace must be unique with all precious things. See that, I shall give you a small example how it was being done. Even in the Industrial Revolution, I shall give you a small example of comparing the oak tree with that of our sal tree. Oak tree, the Britishers wanted that their forest must be kept intact. So they searched in the colonized area what is the equivalent to that of the oak tree, which can be used for industrial purposes, and that they have identified in Bengal, I mean in India, in Nepal, and Sri Lanka. Some of the woods, like sal tree, have been chopped off. Look at the situation in Brazil. The Brazil people presently say that we are having the Amazon forest, which is giving almost 40% of oxygen to all living creatures. So it's the lungs of of our planet. The lungs of the planet is now getting problem. It's a ruthlessly, unplanned way, without looking at the future. The Amazon forests are being up. This continues even today. In Brazil, there is a state where the tribals are there. The tribals with the negotiation of the Brazil government handed over the forest to the state. It was seen that the moment it was taken by the state, the forest could not be retained. Density of forest had declined. So the tribal felt that it is necessary, it's high time. We must protect our own forest and take away the forest that we have given to the state. And they did. They fought against the Brazil government and took back the forest. And now the forest in the hands of the tribals are intact. It's growing like anything. This implies that the lesser technology people, the people who are closer to nature, those who have their life in the lap of nature, possibly are more environmentally suitable, more environmental conscious than that of the people like us who are living in urban sector, in metropolis, and polluting not only the air but also the land. So in order to produce higher quantum of production, crop, what do? We have used chemical fertilizers. Now I shall give a small example. Few years back, around 40 years back, when the land was in my village, when the agricultural land was not using any fertilizer or pesticide, the crabs were there. The small bunds of the bund area, that is separating one patch of land to another. And the fox comes, not only fox puts it inside that hole, and the crab, when it holds, it pulls out the tail and eats away that crab. And that is missing now. Neither the crabs are available in agricultural field, nor even the food that is supplied to the jackal is no more. Jackals are also missing. This implies that these are the events where we have seen that some of the biotic areas are completely erased from our world. So now, it is the duty of the youth to get sensitized on the issues that have been created by the history of mankind and by the technological history that the man has grown across the period. This implies that unless the youth people are conscious, motivated in right perspective, and are in a position to understand things holistically, possibly time is not far away that the entire human society and the non-human living creatures will also completely extinct. Most often what happens, whatever development we call, the development is not meeting the minimum requirement of freedom and necessity of the people. There is no close connection between freedom and necessity of the people, which is a which is honoring nature. And nature-man interaction is becoming so harsh day by day that a modern man is exploiting nature for his own purposes. The higher is the luxury, the higher is the development, greater is the loss to the nature. And obviously, if you play with the nature, nature will play with us. That is how, even today, we have seen these drought and famine, floods are coming frequently. The rain is unpredictable. The heat waves are killing many. We have also seen earthquakes which were hardly had earlier. Now it is frequently occurring. Today itself, in Indonesia, we have witnessed earthquake. And this implies that we have already started killing ourselves. We have already started killing our own species and all network of living creatures. So if you break the, say, food chain, there is a possibility that it will be broken. We cannot revive again. Now, what is already done is true. That is the loss. But then we must see that how that loss need not continue, and we must protect our own area. Say, human being is trying to reach to the stage of becoming. Between the countries, we have seen that on the one hand, they say that we must go for, we must be aware of greenhouse effect. We must go for, circulating the warning to our own people, human world, that, say, heat waves are coming. And because of our own developmental activities, possibilities are coming up. So human intervention with the nature must be reduced, and this reduction must not be against human values. So what is important is that we must live and make others live with dignity. Soil has the life, as river has the life. A river has a life so long it has a running water. Soil has a life so long it has retained its own original features, not the chemicalized soil. Like that, the atmosphere, the air has its own life. Say, if you raise a question, if I raise a question, who controls me? I can say, my father, my mother, my children, but that is wrong. Because whether I like or dislike, the air around me gets into my body and comes out. And if I stop my nostril and if I do not allow the air to get into my body, maybe that I will die. That means my controlling agency is outside my own, where I do not have control over that. So therefore, I must be very conscious that intangible substances which are around me are more powerful than the tangible substances. So both tangible and intangible relations must be harmonic. And thereby, possibly, we will be in a position to properly, eat properly, sleep properly, live harmoniously. And that is how youth must be made to believe that this is the time that we must start learning how to protect ourselves if we are homocentric. But then to become homocentric, we must also see that human alone cannot survive. It has to live along with the other biotic factors. This is how, when we are thinking of homocentric, we must also think of life-centric. And the life-centric is also difficult to maintain. It's because the abiotic substances are also contributing for the maintenance of the biotic substances. That is how the biotic and abiotic relationship must be harmonious. And this harmonious, what has happened cannot be retreated back, but then what is available can be maintained properly, so that at least a few more 100 years we can survive. The human world can survive. That's how this lesson must go to every upcoming child, and every youth must be conscious of this one. So they must see that the argument that the developed countries are giving, that since we have already developed, we have already poisoned, we admit that we have poisoned the entire the globe. We have contributed to the negative features of the planet. But then, if developing countries are contributing now, possibly we will not be there in the world anymore. This implies that we have developed and let you not develop. Now, what is important is that let them reduce their contribution towards poisoning the atmosphere, poisoning the soil, poisoning the water, poisoning the area, even poisoning themselves in their mind. The mind is more important than the matter. It's stated that mind controls the body. If I'm thinking that my thinking process is to protect the environment, possibly it leads to protecting self and protecting all living creatures. That's how I believe that behavioral pattern has to be changed through various say activities. So what is important is that urban people, urban sector or metropolis sector cannot understand the reality because they have never seen what is the ground reality at the village level, at the hill level, because some of the people have not seen what is river. Some of the people in Delhi, people have not seen what is ocean. So when they see ocean, they get astonished. I'm talking about Amjanta, the normal human being who have been socialized and grown up in Delhi or Haryana area. They have never seen what is ocean. And some of the people who are staying in castles, they might not have seen what is river. Earlier, people were taking water from the stream. Now, we have seen that many streams that were snaking down the hill are now missing. They are becoming dry. It's because there are blastings inside the forest, inside the mountain, to extract the minerals, the ores, say whether bauxite or iron or zinc or whatever it is. If you go on blasting, there is a vibration, and the vibration changes the route of the flow of water, and the streams are drying. Now, this drying of seas, rivers, drying of the streams are leading towards killings, I mean, to say, extincting some of the plants and animals. A definite setup for living creatures surviving. If there is a change, it also changes the lifestyle. The life of the living creatures are becoming troublesome. They face the trouble. They are stressed, and higher is the stress. Obviously, they will be thinking what would be the alternatives. Now, by raising question as to what would be the youth's challenge ahead, I shall tell the youth must take the data from the seniors, the elderly generation, so because elderly generation are inventory of knowledge. As they say, knowledge has got distinct functions. That creation of idea. Second is the destination of idea, and third is implementation of idea. Let the youth take the idea and examine that whether the idea that is being given to the youngers by the elders is relevant even today. If it is not relevant, they must search for new ideas. And search for new ideas is possible when they interact with nature. And nature is the biggest guru, biggest teacher. And when they see nature and the life of the nature, possibly they can understand from the fossil evidences to that of the present contemporary society, what has gone wrong, how it has changed its structure and function, that can be seen. And possibly the young people, the youth, the vibrant mind, the challenge acceptors, the risks, they are never the risk avoiders. They are risk takers. So since they are risk takers, they accept challenges, they look for new alternatives. And new alternatives possible. It's possible that we cannot unlearn all the learnings that we have, but we can think of a new learning, taking the reference of the past, reference the present contemporary changes that is being observed and experimented or experienced by the people. That's how I believe youth have a great responsibility to see the world is surviving, the planet is surviving, the planet life is not getting reduced as it is becoming faster nowadays. The changes that within last 50 years we have seen, 100 years we have seen, the change is faster than ever. This implies that change is leading to a deterioration of the human resources, of the natural resources, of the resources that is gifted by nature. So thereby, human, the human who is becoming redundant, who once upon a time was a productive human resource, need to be honored. So that's how, without I believe the young people must take it as a challenge, not to become fault finder, but to become a fact finder and see the exact possible alternative that is possible to protect themselves and protect the entire world. I believe I will stop here and say entertain any discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And one thing, as many things of yours have fascinated us, and only that story of Brazil, where those who took the ownership of the jungle or that forest, and then they could able to protect, even though the government could fail to protect it. That has given us some idea that why we should not do this even in India, because we have many tribal people here, those who really love, because they find their all bread and butter from those forests.
Right.
They can take much care than that of the government of India or the government agencies. Apart from this, I believe youth has already understood that there is a noticeable change in the immediate climate.
Yeah, true.
So even in all schools, in their curriculum also, people are trying, but a tangible effect or tangible result is not yet pronounced. A result has to come out so that these changes, what is going on very rapidly, must be under control. And that is very urgently we need to do something in this particular regard. Otherwise, true that the way the climate is changing day by day, it is going beyond the tolerance of human beings. Because as you can see, this time, Bhubaneswar never happened to have such kind of temperature. So gradually, here, all these things are so much pronounced that some immediate action is needed, and it's good to know that the young people have understood, the students have understood, they are also taken care of. So it's nice to listen to you, sir. Now I'm requesting our principal, sir, to give our vote of thanks from our side. We are really.
Yeah, I stopped it because of discussion, and I wish that there should be some discussion.
Okay. We have some questions.
Good afternoon, sir. Namaskar.
Yeah. Namaskar.
As the role of youth in climate change, today's youth, we have some barriers from the age of 10, from family, from school, everywhere. Nowadays, when we ask a student in class that have you seen any cow? No life, no, because they are staying at the floor of 60 in apartments, and they're coming to the luxurious AC car, going to the AC classrooms, then going to AC malls. So it's very difficult to understand what is their role in climate. They don't know. It's everywhere there's boundary and obstacle and barriers in front of us. So to eradicate, to mitigate this type of barriers and obstacles in our life, what should be our role? What should be the teacher's role in the school or any education institution?
See, I shall tell you, there are strategies. We have already evidence. So today is the Earth Day. Today is the Earth Day, where the Earth is to be protected. That we have already decided. Internationally, it is known as the Earth Day. Now, it is also stated that those who are in the castle, those who are, say, taking education in AC room with all smart classroom avenues or classroom infrastructure facilities, possible they will not be in a position to contribute towards sustainability of the earth. Say, for example, if I'm using AC, it's making me cool, but outside it's becoming warm. This implies that if in the entire, say, metropolitan city, we have seen that the temperature has gone up. Now, what is important here is that the strategy must start from the local. The local people must be made aware of the situation, giving small examples. For example, if I take a brush and put in water, I will hold the wooden portion and the fiber portion is put into water. Then I will put it, say, lift it. You will see that still it holds the water. But if I tilt it, it will drain. The water which is there in the brush will be drained out. This implies that we can give a small example like this to the school children, saying that water holding capacity of the soil is possible if there are plants. And plant itself is giving the life to the soil, and soil and plants are contributing for each other's fertility. This is how small things have to be given. And unless we change the course content, everyone from the class 1 onwards, there must be change in the content of the course, making people aware that world is leading towards extinction if we do not do this. Maybe that this will give a clue to the younger generations. And this has to be taken by the youth to guide the upcoming children. So that's how, it's not that to blame the elders, but to make the elders aware that we need to go ahead with the strategies that is likely to create some discomfort to the urbanites. But then in due course of time, urbanites also can realize that this is where it is necessary. For example, if the multi-story building is having internally the mud wall, the temperature is reduced. This implies that mud wall is more important than the cemented wall. Cement is composed of clinker, gypsum, and say lime, and that is when it's mixed with that, it's creating the bonding capacity is becoming increasing. Now, this, if it goes to the soil, what will happen? Say there is an industry, say cement industry. Cement industry is not normally in India. We don't use ESP, electroprecipitant. So thereby the dust are getting oozed out. The higher heavy dust are falling nearby, and the finer dust are blown at a distance. So the direction in which the wind flows, that area is becoming, even agricultural land is becoming hardened. So in order to produce where the farmers are requiring fertilizer, that's how we are put to the trap of getting into that dangerous situation. So how to escape from that, we need to see. And we talk about organic farming now, but the same thing, we can also start from the household activities onwards. So that's how the green, the non-biodegradable things that is there, we must reduce to the possible extent. We cannot say do away with that, but we can reduce the use of non-biodegradable substances. We can use the biodegradable, for example, in multi-story buildings or say big hotels and motels, the plates are given and the synthetic materials are given as a token of offer, or even food are being served in that. That can be, say, changed, that can be replaced by the leaf, and leaf with the decoration, without any paint, without anything, where the stitching can make it a most decorative one. Even we have seen presently the bamboo art has come on to being, and it has marketed in the European countries and American societies where it's highly demanded. And our tribal people are using this, say, bamboo fiber, baskets, bamboo fiber, designs, bamboo fiber, decoratives. Those things which are to encourage, so that the people will develop a liking towards biodegradable substances and reduce the use of non-biodegradable substances. Like that, huge number of things have to be taken. That there are certain fish which are taking the, eating on, feeding on the garbage, something which are not being taken by other fishes. So those fishes have to be placed, domesticated somewhere in certain pond, where the pond can be maintained clean. For example, there is a pistia plant which is floating on the river. That itself is a plant which cleans the water and observes all some of the arsenic things into its body. This implies that those items, those objectives, those elements must be kept in mind with the youth chaps, and possibly youth will be, once youth are encouraged and enriched with this type of knowledge, possibly they will identify what would the new ideas that is coming up with them and how they can implement this. The time will answer, because every, say, geographical area has its own uniqueness. We cannot take the same blanket, say, plan and implement anywhere we like. That's misfitting. So therefore, local planning, local say strategies have to be identified by the youth, and the youth, since youth are the persons to face the challenge and future, they will live for a longer time. It is becoming they who need to take the say challenge and set the route.
Sir, actually, in our school, we have installed more than 200 ACs in every room. Every day, we are installing one AC. Parents are asking, and students are asking, teachers are asking, install AC. Otherwise, we can't function. We can't do anything.
It's a marketing strategy of the AC producers. Like in the greenhouse, I mean, in the green revolution, what is done? We are told to produce more because huge population is there. We need to have more food. Now, to have more food, the industries have come up with fertilizer, and fertilizer being used. Who become the richer? The industry who created fertilizer for the use of the farmers in their own field. This implies that most of the fertilizer companies are owned by the multinational companies, and they are from outside India, and they become rich, we become poor, and we are becoming sick because those fertilizer has created a new type of diseases with us. This how the green revolution has given a new dimension as a how we have been trapped to the disease area, and how to get rid of that. Now we are thinking of organic farming. So these are the lessons the youth must know, and they must have their own strategies. And you said that every school is needing, and the demand of the parents are, how my child will stay without AC. We are paying huge amount of money for admission, and we must see that AC is being installed. Now, there is a demand, and this demand is being fostered by the business people. Now, imagine that it is true that we cannot unlearn what we learned earlier, but then we can think of the alternatives, like some plantation in and around that will keep the area cool. It's not that the same type of heat without any plant, whatever heat is being experienced by us will not be there if there is a forest nearby. So why not to generate a forest, local forest, and that local forest which is giving some food, not that any plant. So foreign plants are not necessary for us to plant it. And planting is not creating a forest. Nature has given a type of, say, combination of animals and plants. That is the forest. Plantation doesn't create a forest. Plantation only creates a green patch. But then even that green patch is also advised for schools around, so that at least the children can have understanding what is that, how many birds and insects are being taking rest in the lands, what they do, how do they move. Those things can be shown.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Sometimes before, I have seen in Singapore school, one school in Singapore, in the school administration has told all students to carry at least 1-2 plants with them with their carry bag to school.
Yeah.
And to measure the oxygen amounts in that room, that everybody should carry one plant to the school every day, every time.
In fact, my daughter is in London. When she wanted to have a house there, the government has given a, say, procedure, I mean, some format where it is mentioned minimum 3 big plants must be planted, which is nearer to the road, but then far away from his construction sites. And the gap between the road and the house must be around 20 feet. And every house must have a flower garden. That is a condition. For example, in Japan, You cannot buy a car if you do not produce a certificate that you have a garage. So like that, in India, we can also create certain strict rules to maintain. So now rampantly we cut plants in the name of development, highway development, or a highway road, say national highway, state highway, railway, say, airport, or stadium, museum, whatever it is, we chop off for trees. And a tree which has survived for 100 years is being chopped within 1 minute. Who gave us right to chop off those things? That's a part of nature. Somebody has written a small anecdote to me sometime. He said, I am picking flowers which are fallen on road. I do not pluck the flower from flower plant to worship and offer to the deities. Because each one loves to have its own, say, beautification. We dress ourselves, we try to maintain our youth by using a number of medicine and number of type of food that we take. Plant has also a life. It needs to blossom. It needs to have an enjoy. It needs to enjoy a life of its own. Who has given us the right to pluck the flowers? Is that plucking the plucked flowers only pleases the deity, not the flower that has fallen on the road? That's what somebody has given a small story to me that has struck to me in my mind. These are the things, number of things we need to create for the young generation. And young generation must be taken the confidence, and they must be asked to argue, and we must give counter argues so that they will be refining. It's stated that young people have got sharper mind than us. The higher is the human mind is like an iron knife. The more you rub, the more it shines. And if the young people are allowed to have brainstorming, possibly new ideas will generate, and they can find out the appropriate strategies.
Dr. Panda, I think we can't agree more than this. Whatever you said makes every word a sensible word. And being a very young student and with a blessing of people like you around and our management and very worthy and young teachers, we started a journey. We have very strong philosophy behind. Of course, as per the demand of the time, we have to give them so-called education, which is believed all around. But let me tell you that heart to heart and soul to soul, the whole purpose of this institution, KT Global School, is to do what you have in your philosophy and your life done. Our children, one day, they are too young, of course, they're hardly very few and they're very, very young, but they are being shown the same side of the earth, same side of the view of the earth, which will make them feel responsible to maintain the way it is. It's true that being in a place which is very hot, we have been forced to put ACs. Let me tell you, we keep the ACs at the 27 degrees. We don't play more than a limit. It has been a standing instruction that you are habitual of 24, let us go to 25, then go to 26, and then we'll live around 27. So we don't do too much to harm the country or the nation in the world. But yes, being human, we do need some comforts, and the people are not going to understand without it. But yes, except I think 2-3 months onwards, we don't need any air conditioners and whatnot. And being a big, huge school, kids are all open and they learn to live with nature. We have all full green campus. And we naturally, in every possible way, we are educating them that what is the way of survival for the next 100 years. We are going to go early, you have to live in this world. So prepare your world according to yourself. Of course, it's not an easy job. We know that there is a lot of materialistic things are going on. Everybody want to own and have the most possible comforts. It is a tedious job, but it is not something impossible, we'll say. So slowly and steadily, I think we are organizing wonderful programs in the school. In November, we are coming up with an international conference on same climatic change, and you are one of the same in the sequence to pave the way and make the foundation of the same thing. Every Saturday, Dr. Panda, every Saturday we sit with somebody as lucky as learned as you, and we listen to their thoughts, and we become stronger every day. That yes, what we are trying to do is not wrong and is utmost required. So on the bottom of my heart, on behalf of my whole family in KTGS and IIG and whole Knowledge Trust, I thank you for your wonderful time and the great knowledge you imparted. looking forward to have you one day in the campus physically, so that you can also, interact with us in a very personal and physical manner, and your words will be even heard by our children. That is what we
It's
keep
my
in the future.
Yeah, I love to
So
visit.
we will invite you, because of heat, the government has closed the schools. The moment things work out, I'm sure that we'll find a way. We have not celebrated Earth Day because there's no meaning of virtual Earth Day. We wanted our children to be with us, and we really let them touch soil and let them get dirty, let them feel the beauty of it. That makes the sense. By making posters and hanging around, sharing pictures, I think nothing much
Thank
happens.
you. Any,
So we really
continue discussion, or we'll stop here. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Thank you.
We can stop, sir. We just wanted to just thank you on behalf of everyone. We tried. Pleasure and privilege. Thank you very much. Good day to you, sir.
Thank you.
See you then.
See you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Professor Panda, for giving us your valuable time.
Thank you, Patricia, for arranging all this entire program from our school side and from principal side. I thank.
Sir, thank you very much, Pati sir.